everyone who joined us yesterday, and to obviously the people joining us again today. I've been getting great feedback this week, so thanks for that. Like I said yesterday, we'll be sharing all the recordings at the end of the series. So we've got 2 sessions today, 2 sessions left, including today. So obviously the next one is, and the final one is on Tuesday, because it's a public holiday in the UK on Friday, Monday. So again, today we'll go through the presentation, Q&A. Feel free to ask questions throughout, and I'll try and grab those and ask them as we're going. So for today's session, I'm excited to welcome Pete from Databox. Pete's really well known in the HubSpot community. He spent 9 years with them, and he actually started the partner program, which agencies like Digital 22 are a part of. Mike now runs Databox. It's a platform we've used for more than 2 years now, I believe, for all of our own reporting and all of our client reporting. He's going to have a chat to you about predicting your company's performance in these challenging times. So super excited to hear what you have to say today, Pete.
Thanks, Ricky. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but pleasure to be here. And hopefully I can share my perspective, and hopefully that helps some people through these, as you said, very challenging times. So talk about predicting your company's performance in unpredictable times. So I have a little bit of an agenda here. I did have this saying, "Oh shit," but I changed it to "Oh crap," just to make the slides a little more PC. Excuse my language here to get it started. But wow, the world changed overnight, right? Obviously, there's all kinds of personal impacts that we've all had, and of course, this has massive impacts on our business. I'm going to largely talk about the business impacts today. And specifically jump into really things that we're doing at Databox. I've had lots of conversations with other small business owners as well, and some larger businesses as well, just to see how they're faring and what they're doing. We did a survey of 300 businesses, and I've read a lot of other surveys that have been done as well. So, and then talk specifically about how we're doing things at Databox. So a lot of it, I think, is applicable to many businesses. Some of it may not be, but all I can really do is share what we're doing. I'm not an expert on scenario planning or crisis management per se, more of an expert on marketing, sales, running software businesses, running services businesses. So, but I'll talk to you about how we're using data, how we're predicting or trying to predict what will happen 30 days from now. On any given day, of course, things are subject to change. And so that's why we can't predict 30 days out and just let that prediction sit. And I'll talk to you about how we're actually updating our predictions on a daily basis, or updating our forecast, as many would call it, on a daily basis. I'll also talk to you about what we're seeing in the market across our data, as well as what we're doing in our business in terms of shifting our marketing and sales strategy. I don't think it's normal times, and I don't think normal marketing strategies are the right approach right now. And I'll share with you what we've shifted our resources towards, our time towards. And then a little bit about how we can help. We have a free product. We're very generous with stuff, as Ricky will say. We have an amazing partnership with many agencies, including Digital 22, and we want to try to help in applying data and performance management to help companies through these difficult times. All right, so let's jump in. I was hoping to make this a little interactive here, and I'm going to open the chat pane. Is that possible, Ricky, actually?
Yeah, if you ask a question of these guys, they can pop it in the chat, and I can hopefully relay that back to you, or feel free to jump in the chat yourself.
Yeah, I don't see exactly how to do it, so I'm going to rely on you if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, the other.
Thank you. That way it makes it less. Makes me feel like we're having a little more of a conversation anyways, a little less on the spot here with no feedback. So I wanted to put it to the group. How has your business world changed? How has the world changed around yours? You can start, Ricky. You want to share a little bit? We know we talked a little bit before.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess like most businesses, we had a pretty drastic slowdown. So I think I shared some stats yesterday with some clients and some of our team. I think we saw a good 20% drop off in that first few weeks when people started taking
Yeah.
this a little bit more seriously. And then when the country went down into lockdown, we dropped to about 35% down from normal. But to be fair, we started to see some green shoots of recovery. And I think similar on a revenue perspective, a few immediate like stops and pauses, but then there's some new interesting work coming out of it. So starting to get somewhere back to normal.
Yeah, we saw the same thing. We saw like I'll show the data actually. We saw like a 30% drop in our marketing traffic and our signups for our free product. And then we've seen a revenue drop. It's the first time I joined the company 3+ years ago now. And this is the first time our revenue has dropped in a month. Or the month's not over yet, but I anticipate that it'll drop based on our forecasting. So, so I'm sure I know many other businesses are doing that because the reason our revenue is dropping is because many of our customers or some of our customers, their businesses are shut down or something, or they're facing declines in business as well. So I think it's rippling from the consumer economy all the way out through the business economy. Are there any good answers we want to highlight how the world has changed there from the chat?
Yeah, we got a pretty drastic one. So we got Glenn. They work for a company that supplies a restaurant industry. So he said we commence in 16th of March, basically a quick 85% drop in revenue, which is obviously probably at one of the worst ends of the spectrum. And we got Seb. He said everything's they've lost about 40%, and about 30% of it's just moved into the next financial year. So a little bit of drop and a little bit of pushing out.
Yep. Yeah, my neighbor is the founder of Toast, which is a point of sale system. They've grown like crazy and they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they just cut 50% of their staff yesterday. The restaurant industry is obviously really having a difficult time, and obviously travel. One of my old buddies from HubSpot is the CEO of Lola Travel, and they cut their staff several weeks ago, actually, I think by 35 people, which was a big chunk of their staff. They're still a startup. So I know there's certain industries that are hit really hard. So I've not to be too somber, but I've come up with a list of things here because I think it's important that we consider the changes that are happening and how that might impact our business strategy. And the first one's really somber, and I don't want to make light of it at all. But people are obviously dying, and the rest of us are afraid that a family member or us are going to get sick, and so everyone's dealing with that. And I don't want to minimize that. That's the most important thing that we need to try to prevent as best we can, obviously. So, I think that's hanging in the air. It makes things hard, right? I literally broke down on a call the other day with one of my team members, and it's the first time I've ever cried in a meeting at work. And so, it's tough right now, obviously. And then, as we talked about, some businesses are completely shut down in those specific industries there. And then I'd say that most businesses are reviewing expenses and they're reevaluating, do they really need that service? Do they really need that piece of software? And people are cutting costs because they're fearful of what's going to happen next, or because they need to cut costs because their revenue has dropped and they need to either just don't have the cash or need to conserve cash. So obviously not something we're all used to happening in all businesses all at once. Another big one, maybe a little less permanent, but certainly a shock to the system. We're very fortunate. I think I'm very fortunate. Many of you are probably very fortunate that you actually can work from home. If you're attending a webinar like this, my guess is that you are set up so that you can actually work from home. You might have parts of your business that can't work from home, but obviously office workers and then any service providers and B2B companies and software companies like ours are working remotely. Now, most of our team was actually equipped to work remotely. So for us, it wasn't a huge change. A lot of our engineering team would meet in an office 4 days a week, but we were, they're engineers, so they have their internet connection and all their software is on their laptop. So there really isn't, and everything else is in the cloud, right? So there's really no need to be in the office, but then you have kids home too, and that makes challenges as well for people. And one of the surveys we did, one of the questions, a lot of people were worried about about the impact of being home and taking care of kids at the same time. That said, we also did a survey. Some companies are growing, and I've seen actually some companies taking this time to some companies are growing. Obviously, Amazon's crushing it right now. Netflix is probably doing quite well, but there's also smaller companies doing well, right? In food delivery, there's other software companies that are doing well. I think I've talked to quite a few marketers and marketing agencies in the last few weeks, and what they're also seeing is that companies are either taking this time to make some smarter investments, so maybe pulling back on their ad budget because people aren't just going to convert, but maybe investing some of that money into search engine optimization or content marketing, conversion optimization, things like that. We'll talk a little bit about more on that. And then also seeing companies switch markets, right? I have a buddy who works at a Salesforce implementation and administration services company. So they're basically a Salesforce implementation partner and reseller. And he happens to work in the grocery, enterprise retail and transportation and logistics. Like that's his market. So he's busy as heck, and they're actually pulling people into that team. And so there's a lot of actual shifting, I'd say. And I think as Ricky had said a second ago, like he's seeing some clients actually invest more and or, new clients coming aboard in these spaces that are growing. And so, some of this change might actually be permanent. Some of it might be temporary, but there's obviously opportunity here to address these needs. I don't think we should make it opportunistic. I'm not saying we should take advantage of people in this situation at all, but there is, I think, some permanent shifts that will likely occur as a result of all of these changes, people working from home, things like that. So there's a lot to worry about. This is data from a survey we did. Actually, we did it the third week of March. So the data obviously I think has changed. We don't have enough survey sample to keep doing this survey. So the graph on the left is from the week of the March 22nd. We asked a question both, what impacts have you had on your business and what do you expect or what could have a negative impact on the financial performance of your business? And these are the things that most companies were worried about at the time. We also had a number of companies that are already impacted by these things. But I think the biggest thing we all worry about is customers postponing buying decisions, customers or clients canceling contracts, people just not spending money on the consumer side. Obviously, there's the more obvious things like canceled events, canceled travel. Digital 22 just got their big event done for the year, but there's many companies I know that have had to cancel events. So there's a lot of things going on. This is also on the right here, a survey from Alignable, which is like a small business networking kind of website where people can kind of give referrals. It's pretty popular in the US, especially among very small businesses. And so it's probably very heavily focused or skewed towards smaller consumer-like businesses. But you can see here that a lot of companies have reported significant impact to their business. It looks like, though, there's a narrow band of companies that have only seen a moderate impact or no impact in the business. So there is, I guess, this is a weird, I'd say, recession. I didn't live through the 1918 pandemic, as obviously, but I did have my business career span through the dot-com bust and the 2008 recession. And this one, I think, is just weird in that certain parts of the economy are doing well, and then, of course, a big part of the economy, a huge part of the economy is not. And so it's an uneven, I'd say, recession. I'd also say that, it's I'm not a psychologist or a therapist in any way, but I've never felt so much grief. This article I found on Harvard Business Review's website was actually really helpful. I didn't find it, I saw it on Twitter or something like that. But I highly encourage you to read it. I don't think I've ever worked harder in my life, and I'm a fairly hard worker. And I just feel a lot of urgency because I have so much grief. In the article, they call it anticipatory grief. We just don't know what's going to happen. It's really hard to manage. But I think you need to be, I need to be, and I think many of us need to be in touch with that, that feeling, and not deny it. Still try to balance our life. I still try to get outside every day with my 12-year-old son and do something physical, have dinner and sometimes lunch with my family here, and take a break from work. So things like that are important. And I think, if we're going through the stages of grief, some of you are probably familiar with, right? A lot of it is unpredictable. There's a great movie, Ratatouille, if you haven't seen it. Definitely a good one for watching with your kids, but I enjoyed it myself very much. And part of it is the story where just life is unpredictable, and all we can do is what we can control, right? And you've probably seen this or heard this a few times so far, but you got to focus on the combination, the intersection of things that matter and things that you can control. So let's jump into the meat here and where my actual expertise lies. And I'll talk to you about what we're doing at Databox and what we're seeing other companies do as well. I think what is that question you need to ask in your business is what's important and what can you control? And again, find that intersection. This is what it is for us. And I'd say that marketing, sales, maybe service, depending on your business, and finance are the four most important things in your business. And you can see some of my sales related stuff are actually a little more service focused, but we have a huge support team, and that's critical. We're providing as much support as we can, and provide chat and email support, and try to keep our response time down to minutes, and our resolution time down to less than 24 hours. And so we're investing a lot there too, but it's hard to measure how that grows our business, at least. And so the things I'm focused on in addition to that are really, how can I improve my marketing? How can I improve my sales? And how can I improve my cash position? I think pretty much every business is asking those questions. For us, for marketing, it's how do I keep my website traffic growing? But more importantly, how do I keep my signups or leads growing? In our business, we have a free product. So anybody can sign up for that. And that's the majority of our leads. We really don't capture leads in any other way, or any other significant way. And then we have really a support-driven sales approach, meaning we just jump on calls to help people get their product set up, but I still call it sales. And our goal is to get meetings booked. And on the sales side, we're focused on new sales. We do have some upgrades, customers that can upgrade either to a new level of plan or higher usage. And we sell some level of services. We're actually expanding the services we sell or provide specifically to agencies. And then we have customers that cancel and then come back. And so that's reactivations. And on the retention side, obviously, I got to pay attention to my cancellations, and I got to pay attention to my downgrades, people that are moving from one level of the product down to another. And on the finance side, really, we're a software business, a subscription business. So we're very focused on monthly recurring revenue. In some ways, we're fortunate in that we have people paying us on a monthly basis for the subscription. It gives me some predictability, quite a bit of predictability in the business. But that's only one thing. I'm really looking for cash collected. So more business I can get to be quarterly or annual, the more likely, the more cash I have on hand. And obviously I'm paying very close attention to my profits or my loss at this point. We've largely been profitable for the last 12 months, which is odd for a fast growing software company. But we have a low cost structure and have figured out ways to grow our business very low cost. And so we've been able to be profitable. And we've actually cut some expenses this month as well in order to be try to maintain our profitability. So and so we have a good cash position. We're also in a good spot. So I'm very fortunate in that way. But these are the things that we're paying attention to in our business. And based on all the companies that we help do similar things, I'd say that these are also a good example of things that you should be tracking in your business as well. The next thing to consider is really the type of metrics and the types of goals you're setting. We have a free training program that we offer. If you could just Google business analytics training course, you'll find it. Or if you go to databox.com and click on training in the navigation, you'll see it as well. But it's a free course. We built it for a time when we were just helping companies grow, and and growing ourselves. And so I've had to rethink it a little bit. Normally what we tell people is to focus on the lagging indicators, because those are the things that are important, right? We're focusing on things like how much revenue or what's our retention rate, or we're also focusing on the quantity of things like how many blog posts did we publish this month and how much is that going to grow our search traffic. And we're focused on outcomes, right? We're focused on what are the results, how many sales did we get. I would suggest that we think differently during this time. We don't control a lot of those things. We don't control lagging indicators very well. It's really hard to control the quantity of some things that are dependent on other people outside your organization, such as the number of people that buy, and outcomes, once again, aren't fully in your control. And I think companies and people can really stress out during this time, focused on outcomes, and focused on lagging indicators, and focus on and the quantity of things. And so I'd really recommend you think about outputs. The outputs are obviously the things we do, our activities. And so in that case, an example from a sales perspective would be sales calls, not how many you close. Focus in on quality. And so from a marketing perspective, it might be number of leads or number of conversions on your website, but the actual conversion rate. So focusing on that is more within your control, because you can play with copy, you can play with calls to action, you can play with where you're pointing people from one spot to your website to the next. Those are things you can do quickly. You can measure the impact of. Whereas if you just focused on conversions, chances are, I think, and I'll show you our data, but chances are it's going to be really hard to grow traffic in many businesses right now, unless you're in one of those businesses that is just seeing more demand because of the crisis. And then I'd focus on early signs that things are okay, that things are moving in the right direction. I'll show you some of the data we use on the sales side to do that, but say on the customer side, are your clients or customers engaged right now? Are you able to help them right now? That's really leading. That's a leading indicator, a leading metric to track. In our business, they were a software company, SaaS company, software as a service. So we can measure everything everybody does in our product all the time. And so for us, it's about focusing on product usage as opposed to worrying about the people who are canceling, who are just have no revenue right now. There's really nothing I can do to prevent that. And so here's some other examples I'll walk through a little bit more in detail, but for marketing, it's the number of blog posts that you've updated, not the number of blog posts that you've published. And the reason you update, which I'll get into, is to get more search traffic or to improve the conversion rate. So focus on a quality metric that you can determine right away. Is the bounce rate lower once you improve that content, improve that blog post? And a leading indicator before a sale would be, does that content convert into leads for you at a higher rate? On the sales side, I don't know how many of you do chat on your website or chat if you're a software company in your app. Chat is our primary mechanism for both sales, booking sales meetings, as well as supporting our customers in app. And so if you're not doing chat, now is the time to do chat. Chat takes the traffic that you're getting to your website and it'll allow your salespeople to connect at a higher rate. And the reason that works, it's so logical, is because people are on your website right now trying to figure something out, and they probably have a question that you can answer faster than they can find the answer to on your website. So if you connect your website visitors to your salespeople, those visitors can ask the question that they have right away, instead of navigating across your website to try to find the answer. And so that's just going to increase not only your leads, but also your connect rate. But back to my point here, don't focus on don't focus on the sales you get from that right away. That's a very lagging indicator. Focus on how many meetings you book from chats. That's a quality a quality metric that you can measure. And then look at the qualified forecast from that, right? How many people are likely to buy based on your qualification criteria. And so think through your metrics, put them into this matrix, ask yourself, are they an output or an outcome? Are they a quality or a quantity? Are they a leading or a lagging indicator? And start to think about how do you focus on the output, the quality, and the leading indicators. All right. This is how I do it. Again, Databox is a free product. You can check it out. You can connect your data sources, connect HubSpot, connect Google Analytics, connect Google Search Console, connect your Facebook ads account, whatever you're doing, and quickly pick metrics that you can then see on one screen. And I couldn't live without that screen because I check that multiple times per day in order to see how our business is performing. In summary for this section, and I don't want this to sound insensitive once again, but I think unless your business is shut down or a majority of your customers are shut down, I think most of your strategy before the crisis is probably still relevant. It is for us. And so I'm not going to assume it is for you, but I think the question that many businesses need to ask is, do you need to just move a little slower and accept that because expenses need to be cut? Or should you and your team be acting with urgency and trying to go faster to make up for any slowdown or loss? And we're Databox, we're in the latter camp. And so when I share some of our strategy next, just keep that in mind, that our focus is very much on how do we move faster with our current strategy or our previous strategy. Now, 15% of the strategy I threw out the window. Stuff just that became so much less important or urgent. But 85% we've been doubling down on. We follow a process at Databox, which actually we train companies to do in our free training course. Every quarter, every team writes out a long form plan that includes the goals they're going to achieve and the initiatives or projects that they're focused on and the deliverables of those projects. We just published that. We publish them the beginning of every month on the 7th of the first month. So we just published them yesterday, the day before. And they are the most ambitious plans we've ever had. And the team is working unbelievably hard to do it. So we just feel, one, that it's, we can help companies with performance management. We feel our mission more than ever is important. And then of course we're acting with urgency because we want our business to do well and grow and at least I wouldn't say grow. I don't think we'll grow through this, but maintain our business through this. So let's talk a little bit about now, once you've picked some metrics, how do you start to predict 30 days out and how do you update that model every day? You could do a spreadsheet model. I have some spreadsheet models. I'm not going to share those specifically, but I'll talk to you about the metrics we're tracking and how we try to forecast. So you can think about what things you can try to anticipate in your business in order to see 30 days out. Because without seeing 30 days out, I think we run a massive risk in that, if things do get worse or something happens to clients or our business, that we just won't see it until it's too late. We all, hopefully you have cash reserves in the bank. So we have some cushion, but I think it's important to see what's coming, make decisions more decisively in this scenario, as every month that you might wait to see results, there's a chance that, that you've done damage to your business. So one of the things we look at very closely is, as I mentioned, is the traffic we get and the signups. The majority of our traffic comes from organic traffic. Most of our marketing is organic, is content marketing. So the organic search traffic is our bread and butter. We get some, of course, from social. We get plenty of direct traffic from people who know our brand, things like that. But majority of our traffic is organic, and you can see here on the week of the 15th, our traffic just dropped significantly from here. This is daily fluctuations, and I think it's important actually that you track daily fluctuations. And so you see the daily fluctuations, and then each of these bumps is a week, right? The trough is a weekend, and so you can see here the gray is the previous month, and you can see just that massive drop off of 30%. But what we do see obviously is we're getting back there. And then this is the sign of volume, which largely mirrors our organic search traffic as well. And so I've shared a bunch of this with a bunch of people have shared. In our business or in software business, at least, we've seen a very similar thing. I think either businesses were being shut down on that week, at least in the U.S., or businesses were shifted to a fully remote work environment, in which case everybody is just, not quite productive. And so people aren't looking for new things. And so that's, or trying to learn things, new things. So I think that's the logic here for that. Another thing that I pay attention to very closely is leading indicators in our sales process. So, our sales cycle is about 60 days. We have a free product and then we have free trial. So we almost purposely delay our sales process in order to ensure that customers get set up in our product and ensure that they have time to evaluate it and start actually using it before and seeing value before they buy. And so because of that 60 days, I can't tell right now how many sales I will get from this week's sales activity. But what I can do is pay attention to this week's sales activity as a predictor of next month and the month after. I can also pay attention to a quality metric, which is our close rate here, which you can see is down this week, but last week was fine. I think it fluctuates on a little bit, but it is down. I know it's down. And so that's what I'm paying attention to, is how much less sales should I anticipate because my sales activity or my sales close rate is down. And so I'm monitoring my number of meetings booked, number of calls that actually occur, the new deals that are created as a result of those calls, how many we're closing, how much that, and then how much we're predicting for this month that we will close additional revenue. Normally these numbers are 2x this. And so, but that doesn't mean this is important. This makes this even more important. And we're actually, many of the things we're doing in our quarterly plan will be designed to generate more meetings booked, to try to, even with a lower close rate, try to plow through. And we're also doing some things to try to make our sales team a lot more efficient in the way they do things. And then I'm forecasting revenue as far out as I can. I'm looking at everything. So in our business, it's relatively complicated because it's a subscription business. I have to monitor new sales. I have to monitor upgrades. I have to monitor downgrades, cancellations, reactivations, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of numbers that go into it, but I'm tracking that as far out as I can. I'm actually tracking this out beyond, and for some of our metrics, like cancellations, I'm tracking it beyond 30 days, because if someone cancels today, they might have already paid their bill for the quarter or the year. So their actual churn date might be a different day. So as far as possible, trying to get a feel for what our performance will be. And as you see, if you can interpret some of those graphs, it's not all rosy, but I think it's important to get a handle on what is going to happen. So the next thing I'm going to shift towards is the things that we're doing differently, given the reality of our business. And because the reality of our business, I think, is very similar to others, I hope that these are things that you could consider doing as well. The first thing we're doing is we've pulled back significantly on new content. We've cut it in half. We will still be publishing new content. And just to put it in perspective, we publish probably 5 or so articles of new content per week, 5 or so, pieces of content on our website every week. So we're doing a lot of content, I think, compared to most small businesses or startups. But we are cutting that back because most of that content doesn't have an immediate impact, new content. And you might not be in this situation. We're in a fortunate situation where we've done that for a long time. We've published a lot of content for a long time, and we have a lot of content that performs relatively well. But with content marketing, it's not a publish it and forget it. It's kind of like maintaining a house. If you build a house and you paint it and you do everything right, but then for 40 years you don't do any maintenance, I can guarantee you that house, it might still be standing, but it's not going to look good, and there's going to be damage that might be unsafe for you to dwell in it. So content marketing is similar. If you publish a piece of content and just let it sit there forever, that piece of content is not going to contribute in the long term. And so you have to update it in order so that it's try to make it the best piece of content related to that topic on the internet. Hard to do, but possible. depending on how niche you go. And then also you need to update it to make sure that it's relevant to the people that are finding it, and that and your product is aligned or your service is aligned with it. So people who find it actually want to do business with you. And so those things are important. And so here's an example. We did this like 9 months ago, where we actually added to our play. We kept up with the volume of new content at the time, but we went back and we found our 20 articles that it actually performed really well, but it started to have diminishing results. Kind of like looking at your house and saying, hey, the paint is peeling on that section of the house because of the sun or because it doesn't get sun or whatever it is. We need to fix that. And so that's what we did. And we have a way of looking and seeing which content over, say, a 6-12 month period is actually decaying, either in terms of the traffic it's getting or in the conversions that it's driving. And so we went and we updated those articles using a methodology specifically around making sure that it will rank higher in search, or at least get back to where it was. And you can see the results. This is our overall website traffic for the year. And we took the screen grab here in October. So it's 10 months of data. And you can see here that our traffic was largely flat for 6 months up until June. And then we did this, and over 2-3 months, we updated these 20 articles. And you can see that our traffic grew by 75%. We've laid out exactly how to do this. I know that Digital 22 knows how to do this as well. It's not a service we provide at all. And so it is something that Digital 22 can help you, or you can go read that as well and see exactly how we do it. So in Q2, we've decided to kind of revisit this. And instead of publishing a lot of new content, we're going back and optimizing existing content. This time, we're not just doing it for search, we're actually doing it for conversion as well. And we're going to make sure that as we update that content, where it's driving traffic to our sign up page for people to sign up to our free product. And so now I would argue is a time to do this, especially if you're in a position where you have a decent amount of content to optimize. And this is how I would make up for any shortfall. This is how we will make up for a shortfall. And we will come out stronger on the other side, right? Because we'll have higher converting pages, we'll have higher ranking pages, and everything we do on top of that will get us better results. So it's actually probably a process we should have been doing all along, but now it's specifically a process that we're going to invest a lot in. As I mentioned earlier, sales is harder right now. It's harder for us. I imagine it's harder for many of you. It doesn't mean that we should stop. And last month was actually one of our better months in terms of profitability. It wasn't one of our best months in terms of sales, but you can see our close rate was great. That's an above average close rate for us. It usually is around 30%. We closed quite a few deals through the sales team. In our business, we also have a lot of people that buy without talking to our sales team. In fact, it's close to 2/3 of our business, as you can see here. Actually, in last case month, 3/4 of our customers bought without talking to our sales team. And so this isn't all of our sales, but I am very focused on the sales that we can control, right? I can't control whether people buy on their own. I can just control, do we provide support to them when they need it? And do we provide the opportunity to get help on a call as they make their buying decision? And so those are the things I control. Those are the things I'm focused on. I'm focused on those meeting books, those calls logged, those new deals created to make sure, and my close rate to make sure that things are going in the right direction. I also think this is an opportunity, and probably it's probably the first thing I should have talked about, but there's a need here to treat our committed customers best. I'd consider Digital 22 one of our best partners, very committed to our platform. We're committed to them. And so we're doing things to help our best customers, our best partners, get past this, right? I'm not a HubSpot. I'm not a Salesforce. I'm not an Amazon. I can't go out of my way to give people money. We're a business that's running like most businesses off of the money we generate. And so I can't just give people free software, but we are doing some things to try to help here. We're launching, actually, we've been working on a lot of functionality for the last 9 months. A year ago, I made a big decision to invest the infrastructure of our product so that we could really expand our capabilities, enable much more analysis inside the app, both by customizing date ranges as well as analyzing things by different dimensions. So much more similar to a business intelligence tool, which people pay 10 to 100 times more for than they pay for Databox. So we've been working on that. A lot of that actually is launching this month. Our intention was to actually charge more for it, but I've made a decision for the most part that we will, not for the most part, for our existing customers, they will get a lot of this functionality, most of this functionality for free, and new customers we will charge more. But that will go out, start going out this quarter and next. And I think if you're in a position to do that, I know HubSpot did something similar where they delayed a price increase for the HubSpot Sales Pro, and they're always adding new features and functionality to their products. The other thing is we've cutting their prices on our services. We have implementation services and that we offer for our product. Many of our partners actually take advantage of those services to get their clients set up. And we're cutting the prices of those services. It's not launched yet, but it will be launched very soon. And we're also, as we increase the capabilities of our product so that the users can do more analysis, we're going to allow them to analyze more data, especially if they make a commitment to us and at least switch to a quarterly plan, or if they're on a quarterly plan already now where they're paying us quarterly. So these are the things I feel like we can do given our situation. I think every company needs to look at it and say, what can we do just a little bit more that we can afford that can help someone else out? And I think that's, it's different for every business. Like I said, HubSpot, I think, can go out of their way. I don't think they're talking about this publicly, but I know that a few weeks ago, they sent a note out to their top partners and said, if you want your commission checks for the next 2 quarters now, just let us know, or actually tell us if you don't want it. And I think they just sent the checks out. So I think that's extremely generous. They didn't need to do that, but they have $1 billion in the bank on the balance sheet. Obviously, they need that for running their business to some degree, but I think they're in a position where they can weather this very comfortably. I've seen a lot of other software companies, finance companies do similar things. Gusto deferring their payment for 3 months. I literally logged into Gusto. We use Gusto for our HR and payroll administration in the U.S. because it's complicated in the U.S. And Gusto makes it easy. And I logged in one day actually to cut my salary down during this time, and they gave me an option to just defer payments for 3 months. And so Gusto is pretty cheap. I think we pay maybe $70 a month or something like that. But hey, it's $70 a month I can save right now. And I see a lot of other companies do that as well who can afford it. I think Ahrefs is an SEO, a search engine optimization company. We don't pay for it because we have a partnership with them. But if you log into their account, I think they offer a discount proactively. I think they just raised a lot of money, so they can afford to do that. And obviously PayPal can afford to allow people to defer payments if they're facing hardship. So there's a lot of things I think bigger companies are doing, but even as a small company, Databox, there's things that I wanted to do and within our means. And I encourage you to think about that as well. All right. And lastly, and I'll wrap this up here, how we can help. So, this is a quote from my director of marketing. It's probably a little weird to quote my director of marketing, but he came up with it. So I want to fully give him credit. But if you can track performance in real time, then you can influence it in real time. Like I said earlier, John's paying attention. Our director of marketing is paying attention to our traffic and signups. He's optimizing things now in order to get more signups. On the sales side, which I manage directly, I'm focused on did the right amount of meetings happen today? And what's our close rate look like this week? And I'm looking at that and saying, how do we do more? And I'm pushing the team. Work-life balance is actually in our core values at Databox. These feel like times where I'm asking my team to work a bit harder, in order to help more. And so I'd encourage you to challenge your team to do the same thing. So far, my team has really stepped up, and all I really had to do was ask. Most companies, I'll say, are tracking performance this way. They're either pulling it into a spreadsheet, they're creating PowerPoint decks. Maybe you just log into a shit ton of tools. Maybe you're constantly telling your boss, responding to your boss's emails or Slack messages saying, how is this performing? I'd say now is not a time to be doing this kind of thing. Maybe if you can afford to have a full-time analyst sit there and feed you insights and recommendations, that works. But I think that kind of budget is reserved for mid-size and larger companies. And so for most of us, mere small businesses, we need to pay attention to this in real time without a lot of back and forth. That's what Databox does. It pulls all the data from all your different tools into one spot so that you can measure it. You can then build custom dashboards. We have a crap ton of metrics that you just literally choose from and just drag and drop onto your dashboard. Or even easier, you can browse our templates that are fully made. So if you use HubSpot, for example, I think we have like 50 templates in there that you can go in and just say, I want this one, this one, this one, and it'll immediately populate with your data as soon as you connect your HubSpot account to Databox through a simple login process. Setting goals is easy. Now is the time to set goals. Those goals need to be SMART goals, and with a special emphasis on the R in SMART, realistic, right? I'm sure most of you know SMART goals, but specific, measurable, actionable or assignable, realistic, and time bound. R is really important right now. Make your goals realistic. But Databox enables you to set goals and track them very easily. There's a lot more there. And then pay attention to what's happening, leave comments, right? You need to have conversation. A lot of our customers literally leave comments right on the data so that as other people are viewing the data, they can see the interpretation. We also have capabilities where you can send data or dashboards right into Slack where your team can have conversations there as well. But I think it's important that you're discussing your performance on a daily basis. Here is that Slack alert. You can also send those alerts or scorecards to a mobile app, the Databox mobile app, or through email. I would encourage, that was a lot, and I went through it really quickly. I didn't want to make this a commercial, but we offer these tools for free. Many of you, if you're not doing this now, I would encourage you to use our free product. We also have a free trial, and we also have a sales team, a support team willing to help you for free. So I don't feel like I'm selling anything right now. If you need help, please try our product. I'd also encourage you, if you know you need help and you know it's important, to reach out to Digital 22. Databox has a bit of a learning curve, and while we try to help through that, it's our customers who work with our partners are much more successful in getting set up and getting value out of Databox. We also have a free course if you really want to invest in your team and empower your team to be more data-driven, to focus in on the ROI, to manage their own performance so that you don't have to do it. I'd encourage you to have your whole team take this training course. It's all about aligning around the right metrics and goals, picking the metrics, agreeing upon which ones are most important, analyzing that performance, making it easy to analyze that performance across the team. So you're not spending hours tabulating data, but you're actually just looking at data and determining what the insights are, and a few more steps to it as well. And at this point, I think I will stop. I am probably way over on time, and turn it over to Ricky for questions.
Brilliant, thank you, Pete. I think that was really informative. It's good to hear not only the kind of reporting and metric side, but as a fellow person who runs a business, it's reassuring to hear that you're working harder than you ever have in your life, because I'm certainly in the middle of that. So I'm glad that's not only me. And really good seeing your traffic and revenue sort of report you did early on. It's pretty much identical to ours, to be fair, the drops and then the comeback.
Yep.
And I think we're seeing that with a lot of clients. So that was from a personal level reassuring to you.
Yeah, I try to always be transparent, as you know. It's like none of this is worth being secretive about. I have competitors like everyone else does, but I think there's a place for all of us, and I've always found that sharing is caring, right? But sharing, I always learn as much too, right? You wouldn't have told me that you're doing the same, and I wouldn't have feel better about it if I didn't share first. So I'm glad that you found it helpful. And I hope
good. If anyone's got any questions for Pete, feel free to drop them in the chat. I know we're running a bit tight for time. If you do need to drop off, obviously email them over. We'll forward them all on to Pete, and I'm sure he can pick up and help answer any questions you've got. My couple of big takeaways from today were, I love the house analogy around content optimization and avoiding decay, something we've leaned heavily into for clients over the last couple of years, and can echo the results that come out of taking care of the content that you've spent years crafting and building.
Exactly.
That's a huge takeaway. And I think the other one is around the way you treat your customers, like the way HubSpot have treated us, the people like yourselves have treated us through these times. Are things people remember for the long term. So definitely,
it's painful to do. You know, we're obviously I'm dealing with my own issues, and
yeah.
But I find you know there are people that ask the wrong way, and there are people that ask the right way, and in normal times I would stick with my terms of service. I don't, you know, but trying to be human in these times as well, and balance running my business with helping others.
No, exactly. So I completely agree with that. So any questions you've got for Pete, feel free to email me and I'll pass them on to him, because I know we've only got a couple of minutes left. So I'd just like to say thank you to Pete. There's a lot of comments coming in saying thank you for the session and great session, and some comments around loving the ideas of annotating results and things like that. So everyone's giving you good feedback. But if there's any questions, I'll forward them on. And then to everyone else, last thing to say is our last session is on Tuesday. We've got Fernando from SEMrush. He'll be talking us through the changing landscape of organic search and what you can do about that. So in the UK, it's a public holiday this weekend. Everyone have an amazing break and Easter. And again, thank you, Pete, for all your time. Really, really enjoyed speaking with you.
No, it was fun to be here and good company. I'm a big fan of Mike Donnelly at 7 Cents. I actually just talked to one of the executives at SEMrush the other day. We have a partnership with both of those companies. Obviously, HubSpot, we have a partnership as well. So thank you for putting this together. Thank you for including us.